All right, the NFL season continues with the final NFL Sunday of November, with Week 13 coming to a close. We're back to give you the best player prop bets for Week 13 Sunday action. Now, last week, I went 3-2, got that record, improved to 24-11 on the season. So let's get to it with my picks for this week, and we start with the Jets, who will host the Seahawks on Sunday afternoon. And for this prop, let's focus on New York receiver Garrett Wilson, who seemed to be breaking out early in the season when he had a stretch of 4 out of 5 games with 100 yards receiving. In his last 2 games, Wilson has caught 9 balls for a total of 59 yards. Now, this week, Wilson goes up against the Seattle defense that's pretty mid when it comes to defending the pass. So this should be a pretty favorable matchup for the Jets receiver, and his receiving yards line is at 60.5 yards. Not going to overthink this one. Give me Wilson over his receiving yards line on Sunday. Next up, we're going to look at another receiver who has an even better matchup than Garrett Wilson, in my opinion. That's Cardinals rookie Marvin Harrison Jr. He faces the Vikings in Week 13, and Minnesota, they are terrible when it comes to stopping opposing wide receivers, as they rank 31st in the league. The matchup, so tantalizing here that I thought about going with him as an anytime touchdown scorer, but I'm going to focus on his receiving yards line, which is just 51.5 yards. For me, that's pretty low, considering he's had great production against teams well below league average on pass defense this season. So I'm going to rock with Harrison Jr. over 51.5 receiving yards on Sunday. Now, it's time to give some love to the running backs. I'm going to go with a tailback who got a win for me last week. That is Vikings running back Aaron Jones. Now, in Week 12, Jones, he crushed the over on his rushing yards line pop. So let's revisit this line again this week against the Cardinals. Now, the line is 66.5 yards, and Jones, he's averaging 72.5 rushing yards per game this season. Now, Arizona, they're not good against the run at all. They rank 27th in adjusted run defense and 31st in defensive rushing success rate. The Cards, they allow the 14th most yards per attempt. That's 4.4 yards to running backs. So I'm loving Jones to crush it again for the second straight week. Lock it in. Jones over 66.5 yards against Arizona. Continuing with running backs, we're going to look at Saquon Barkley and the Eagles. They have a huge matchup this week in Baltimore. Now, while Mr. Barkley, he's ran the ball tremendously well this season, he is going up against the second best rushing defense that he's seen in 2024. The only better rushing defense the Eagles tailback has gone up against, that was the Browns. They held him to 18 carries for 47 yards. Cleveland, they're 7th against opposing running backs, while Baltimore is 9th. So I look at this and I see Baltimore halting the run, keeping Barkley below his rushing yards line of 87.5 yards. So as good as the ground game has been with Barkley, he's leveling up against the defense this week. So I'm going with Saquon Barkley under 87.5 rushing yards. And finally, we're going to look at a quarterback, Baker Mayfield and his Buccaneers. They're facing the Panthers in an NFC South showdown. And here's another example of another player going up against a terrible pass defense. Carolina, they've allowed 21 passing touchdowns, and they've recorded the 4th fewest interceptions in 2024 with just 5. So for this game, got my eye on Baker's passing touchdowns line, which is at 1.5. The Bucs QB, he's thrown 2 or more touchdowns in 7 games this season. Mayfield, he's thrown the ball well. Carolina, they can't stop the pass. So feels like a perfect spot to bet Baker Mayfield over 1.5 passing touchdowns against the Panthers. And there you have it. Those are my 5 best player prop picks for Week 13. Let's keep the winning weeks going. We've been winning, people. And as usual, enjoy the bets. Always enjoy the games.